Shell means their cell wall is infused with silicon. So this silica infused cell wall is called as the diatom shell. Very disgusted to touch actually is the slime molds. They are known as fungus animals. Now this name is very interesting. Why fungus animals? One is a big macronucleus, which is a vegetative nucleus. This nucleus regulates all the metabolic activities and all other activities that are essential for the survival of the cell, for the metabolism of the cell, for the movement of the cell, for the growth of the cell. And there is a small nucleus called the micronucleus, which is also known as the reproductive nucleus, as this nucleus helps in reproduction.
Thank you for watching this video.
Let us now look into the Kingdom Protista. Kingdom Protistas are unicellular eukaryotic organisms. They have a well-defined nucleus and membrane-bound organelles such as mitochondria, chloroplasts, other plastids, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi bodies, etc. To sum up, all protistans are parasitic, saprophytic or photosynthetic. They can have all these three modes of nutrition and they store food inside their cytoplasm in specialized food vacuoles in the form of starch, glycogen, paramylon, chrysolaminidine and fats. Let us look into the various classes under the Kingdom Protista. The first class that we encountered are the chrysophytes. Chrysophytes are entirely aquatic. They are found in both marine environment and freshwater environments, mainly in freshwater rivers and streams and in oceans. Chrysophytes include the diatoms and the desmids. The desmids are known as the golden algae. Desmids act as an important source of iodine and protein for various aquatic animals such as fishes and other mammals such as seals, etc. Also, desmids can also be eaten by humans and are also important producers of various commercial substances like gelatin, agar, etc. And the diatoms. Now, diatoms are found in the ocean beds where they form aggregations. Diatoms have a shell, right? They have a shell. Shell means their cell wall is infused with silicon. So this silica infused cell wall is called as the diatom shell. Now these shells form aggregation on the ocean floor known as diatomeous earth. This diatomeous earth is very rich in silica, phosphorus and calcium, mainly in silica, and acts as the one of the most important sources of silica that we have for our industries. Next are the dinoflagellates. These dinoflagellates are mostly marine and they are photosynthetic, and these dinoflagellates contribute to most of the oxygen produced on the oceans, right? The oceanic environment also depends on oxygen for survival and sustenance. Majority of the oxygen is produced by the dinoflagellates along with the monerans that we have discussed earlier. There are various kind of dinoflagellates. They move by the help of flagella. One interesting dinoflagellate is the goniolax, which causes the red tide. Now, these goniolax are found in a huge number. Millions of billions of goniolax are found in per liter of ocean water. These goniolax produce a particular pigment that turns the ocean water or the particular region of the ocean as reddish or pinkish. This is known as red tide. Now, the chemicals present in that red tide excreted by the goniolax as waste materials are toxins. They are poisonous to marine life, and lot of fish, lot of dolphins also sometimes perish due to the red tide phenomenon. Generally, the more acidic the ocean water becomes, the more goniolax flourishes and more phenomenon of red tide are getting common and more common as each day passes. Since due to global warming and increased CO2 level, the ocean water is turning more acidic and more goniolax is flourishing. Hence, more phenomenon of red tide can be observed nowadays, and marine life is suffering as a result. Some dinoflagellates are also bioluminescent, meaning they can produce their own light, such as glowworms or the fireflies that we see at night, especially during summer or monsoon. You see fireflies around your house, in bushes, in trees. They glow in the dark, right? They produce their own light. Now, this bioluminescence is due to the presence of photogenic granules in the cytoplasm of all those bioluminescent dinoflagellates. Now, how these organisms produce light? Well, there are two enzymes involved. One is luciferin and another is luciferase. Luciferase captures oxygen from the cytoplasm and they transfer that oxygen into the enzyme luciferin. Now, when luciferin gets the oxygen, oxygen always carries two unpaired electrons. So, the luciferin gets oxidized, and during this process of oxidation, light is produced as a byproduct, oh, right, of this oxidative reaction. Hence, they can become bioluminescent at night due to the photogenic granules. These photogenic granules, as I said, contains luciferin and luciferase. These two enzymes are responsible for the production of light. This light is also known as night light. Why? Because in the ancient times, when the sailors used to travel at night on ships, they used to observe that parts of the ocean are glowing in a magical light show like fashion. It is glowing greenish, it is glowing bluish, along with the waves, especially near the shores, where the waves are breaking at the shores, near the shore region or near the sea beach. The ocean is glowing in a ethereal greenish hue, almost like a supernatural color. So wherever those hues were present in at night, sailors used to think that there would be seashore, there would be land where the waves are breaking and there is a light emanating from it. So they used to follow that light, and sailors fondly referred to them as night light, but they were produced by bioluminescent dinoflagellates. Also, you have heard of mussels, the type of mollusks, bivalvia. They produce pearls inside them. Now, what do these mussels eat? They eat dinoflagellates. Dinoflagellates are the most important food source for all the mussels that produce pearl. So, we can also credit dinoflagellates indirectly for the production of beautiful pearls, because if they were not present, mussels wouldn't have eaten as often, mussel population wouldn't have flourished, and pearl production would be very low. Even in artificial pearl cultures, where the mussels are suspended in water, the water is infused with dinoflagellates, or pearl culture is done in water that is rich in dinoflagellates so that the mussels can eat and grow and produce more and more pearls. Next, we have the euglenoids. These are very interesting organisms. They act as a bridge between animal like organisms and plant like organisms. Why? Because all euglenoids, for example, Euglena comes under the class Euglenoid. They are found in stagnant fresh water such as ponds, such as lakes, such as ditches, provided the water should not be murky. The water should be clear, it should be clean. Euglenoids are photosynthetic. They have chloroplasts containing chlorophyll. They produce their own food by photosynthesis. But in monsoon, we have overcast skies, we have overcast conditions, sunlight cannot penetrate far enough into the water. So, if they're deprived of sunlight, they turn predatory, they turn heterotrophic from autotrophic. They actively hunt other microbes, mainly bacteria. Okay, either archibacterians or eubacterians found in the freshwater regions. So, when deprived of sunlight, they become predators. But when there is enough sunshine, enough sunlight, they are photosynthetic autotrophs. Euglenoids also have a unique feature. They do not have a cell wall. They have an external covering outside of the protoplasm known as the pellicle. Now, the pellicle is composed of mucopolypeptides. Now, these mucopolypeptides are not as hard or not as, what should I say, they're not as rigid as cellulosic cell wall or cell wall made up of peptidoglycans or teichoic acids as we have found in the bacteria. They're not so rigid. So pellicle provides a lot of flexibility to the euglenoids, hence they can move easily in water through tiny cracks or crevices present in the aquatic environment. They are very flexible. Also, the euglenoids, they also move with the help of flagella. They have two flagella. One flagella is long and one flagella is very short. Right? The long flagella helps in fast swimming motion, and the short flagella helps the euglenoids to make sharp turns in water when they are actively hunting bacteria. Right? Dinoflagellates also have here. The dinoflagellates also have two flagella. One, they have a longitudinal flagella, like suppose if I draw a dinoflagellate, the dinoflagellate more or less looks like this. They have a longitudinal flagella and a transverse flagella. The longitudinal flagella helps in the rectilinear or motion or the motion along a straight line, whereas this flagella, this flagella helps the dinoflagellate to make sharp turns in water in order to capture food materials, similar to euglenoids. Euglenoids also have a short flagella and a long flagella. Like this is, if this is a new euglenoid, this is the long one, helps in the swimming, and the short one helps the euglenoid to make turns in water, to move here and there in a zigzag fashion to capture food, mainly when they are hunting. Next, we have slime molds. Slime molds are very interesting. They are almost like fungus, or earlier when all these classification schemes were not very popular, the slime molds were considered as a type of fungus. They were classified into kingdom fungi, but later on they were classified into kingdom protistans. They are saprophytic. What they do, they are found on dead and decaying plant material. If there is a rotting piece of wood or a dead tree log, you will find that there is a sticky substance formed on them. This sticky substance that we feel very disgusted to touch actually is the slime molds. They are known as fungus animals. Now, this name is very interesting. Why fungus animals? We all know fungus are not animals. Well, they are termed as fungus because just like fungus, they are found in rotting pieces of wood, dead and decaying wood materials or plant materials, and they break down those plant material to obtain their nutrition. Why animals? Because they are heterotrophs. They do not have a well-defined outer covering or a true cell wall, right? Also, they are heterotrophic. So that is like fungus animals. This is a very old term, fungus animals, but generally in your question sometimes it comes that which group of animals are known as fungus animals. So the answer will be slime molds. Now they are found in colonies. Single slime mold organisms are not found generally. They are always found in aggregations or colonies known as plasmodium. Now, this plasmodium should not be like confused with the protozoan plasmodium vivax or plasmodium falciparum. Their aggregation of slime molds are also known as plasmodium. Another reason of calling them fungus is just like fungus, which we will come in a later portion of our lesson. They form fruiting bodies. Now, these fruiting bodies bear spores or the reproductive cells, and these spores have true cell wall, right? When the condition is adverse, they reproduce with the help of spores. They form fruiting bodies when there is low moisture, when there is low rainfall, then there is low humidity, right? They produce fruiting bodies containing spores enclosed in cell walls. These fruiting bodies burst, releasing the spores outside, and wherever the spores fall on a dead piece of tree or a dead tree log or a rotting piece of wood, they form the slime mold aggregation known as plasmodium. But when the conditions are favorable, they generally reproduce by binary fission only. An example of this slime mold is the physarum. Now we will come to the most important members or the most important class under Kingdom Protista, that is the protozoans. Proto means primitive, zoans means animals. These protozoans are the first organisms that are taking a step towards the formation of animals, or they are showing a trend of evolving into animal-like organisms. Protozoans can be divided into four subclasses, starting with the amoeboid protozoans. These amoeboid protozoans are aquatic, mostly aquatic. Some are found in the soils, moist soils, such as mud or like wet sand and all. They are marine and also they are freshwater residents. The marines have also shells similar to the chrysophytes. That is, their cells or their what should I say? The cell walls are also covered by silicon. They are infused with silicon, so they form shells and they capture food by pseudopodia. However, only the marine amoeboid protozoans have a cell wall. The freshwater ones, like the Entamoeba histolytica, which causes amoebic dysentery in human beings, they do not have a cell wall. They only have a protoplasm, just like an animal cell, right? And they capture food by fusion of their pseudopodia. They form food vacuoles by fusing to pseudopodia, and their mode of locomotion is known as amoeboid locomotion, which they also do by the help of pseudopodia. Next, we have flagellated. They may be free living, may be parasitic. They are aquatic. They move by flagella, and there are some parasitic flagellates like Trypanosoma brucei that can cause sleeping sickness in human beings carried by the tsetse fly. There are ciliated amoeboids, not amoeboids, ciliated protozoans. They are also aquatic, moved by the rhythmic movement of the cilia. Now, these ciliated protozoans have two nucleus. One is a big macronucleus, which is the vegetative nucleus. This nucleus regulates all the metabolic activities and all other activities that are essential for the survival of the cell, for the metabolism of the cell, for the movement of the cell, for the growth of the cell. And there is a small nucleus called the micronucleus, which is also known as the reproductive nucleus, as this nucleus helps in reproduction. These micronucleus generally, when two, one example is the Paramecium quadratum or the slippered protozoan, because they just look like rubber slippers. When two parameciums come in contact, they form a pili or a channel. and this micronucleus splits into two in both the paramecium, and they exchange one of their micronucleus with each other, and they break apart. The pili breaks apart and they separate. Now this creates genetic variations in the population, and this is a kind of sexual reproduction that paramecium can undergo with the help of micronucleus. Hence it is also known as the reproductive nucleus. And the last we have the sporozoans. They are all endoparasites, meaning they are parasites which are present inside the body cavity of animals. They do not have any locomotory organs. They are carried from one part of our body to another with the help of blood and lymph. One example is the plasmodium, which causes the dreaded malaria. There are two kinds of plasmodium. One is the plasmodium vivax, causing the common malaria, and the plasmodium falciparum, causing the malignant malaria. Malignant malaria is very lethal disease, and in Africa, in South America, malaria is still rampant and takes millions of lives each year. So this is all about Kingdom Protista.